Adam never considered himself the type of man who had to worry about infidelity. He and Jessica had been married for 7 years, and while their relationship had its ups and downs, he never thought she'd cross that line. But there it was, the undeniable proof, glowing on her phone screen. Jessica had left her phone on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. Adam had meant to snoop, but a message notification popped up and curiosity got the best of him. "Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again. Winking face, asterisk, asterisk." At first, he told himself it had to be a misunderstanding. Maybe it was an old friend being playful. Maybe it was a joke. But when he opened messages, his stomach dropped. There were dozens of texts, flirty, passionate, and painfully intimate. The kind of messages that made it clear this wasn't just a mistake. This was ongoing. He scrolled further. Pictures. Not just any pictures, selfies in hotel rooms, a few of Jessica in lingerie, and one of her lovers shirtless in bed. Adam clenched his jaw, his pulse pounding in his ears. His hands shook as he put the phone down, suddenly feeling like he had walked into someone else's life. Jessica had been cheating on him. The bathroom door creaked open, and steam billowed into the hallway. Jessica walked out, wrapped in a towel, rubbing her hair with another. She smiled when she saw him. "Hey, babe," she said casually. "Everything okay?" Adam forced himself to breathe. He wanted to scream, to demand answers, to throw her phone across the room. Instead, he swallowed the lump in his throat and met her eyes. "Who is he?" His voice came out steadier than he expected. Jessica froze for a second. Just a second. Then she gave him a confused look, tilting her head. "What are you talking about?" Adam grabbed her phone off the counter and held it up. "Don't. Just don't. I saw the messages. I saw everything." For a moment, he thought she'd break down. Apologize. Beg for forgiveness. That's what people did when they got caught, right? But Jessica's expression barely shifted. Her eyes flicked to the phone, then back to him. Instead of guilt, there was something else in her gaze. Almost calculated. She sighed, then walked past him like he had just accused her of something as trivial as forgetting to take the trash out. "Adam, sit down. Let's talk about this." "Talk?" He was barely holding himself together. "Are you kidding me right now?" Jessica sat on the edge of the couch and folded her hands in her lap, looking at him like he was the one who had done something wrong. "Listen, I know this looks bad," she said, her voice calm. "But I need you to understand something. This isn't just about me." Adam stared at her, dumbfounded. Asterisk what? Asterisk. "This is about us," she continued. "Our marriage hasn't been in a good place for a while. You have to admit that." He blinked, struggling to process what he was hearing. "Asterisk our asterisk marriage?" Jessica nodded, like she was explaining something simple. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Adam. But I was missing something. I felt alone. And when people feel alone, they make mistakes." His grip on her phone tightened. "Jessica, this isn't a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk at the store. This is cheating. This is lying to me for God knows how long." She let out another deep sigh, like she was the one suffering here. "I know you're angry. And I don't blame you. But if we're going to get through this, we need to work together. That's why I think we should go to therapy." Adam almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was insane. She got caught cheating and now she wanted therapy? "You want me to go to therapy because you had an affair?" "It's not like that," Jessica said quickly. "Therapy isn't about blaming one person. It's about fixing what's broken. And we are broken, Adam. I didn't cheat because I wanted to hurt you. I cheated because something is missing between us." The sheer audacity left him speechless. He had caught her red-handed, and somehow, she was flipping this around on him. Like he had driven her to it. Like he needed to fix something. He stared at her, trying to find any trace of the woman he had loved for the past 7 years. The woman who used to look at him like he was her whole world. Now, she sat there, treating him like a problem to be managed. Finally, he exhaled, setting the phone down on the table. "Okay," he said, his voice eerily calm. Jessica's eyes lit up, like she thought she had won. "Okay. You want therapy?" He met her gaze, a storm raging inside him.
Fine.
Let's do therapy.
She smiled, relieved.
I really think this will help us, babe. Adam didn't smile back. Because he wasn't going to therapy to fix his marriage. He was going to therapy to figure out just how deep her lies went. And when he was ready, he'd make sure Jessica regretted ever thinking she could play him like this. Jessica was glowing as they sat in the waiting room of the therapist's office, as if she had just accomplished something grand. Adam watched her out of the corner of his eye, noticing the way she sat with perfect posture, her legs crossed, her hands resting delicately in her lap. She had cheated on him, lied to him, betrayed their vows. And yet, she was the one sitting there looking confident, like she was about to take control of a business meeting. He clenched his fists, forcing himself to stay calm. He had agreed to this therapy charade, but not for the reasons Jessica thought. No, he wasn't here to work on their marriage. He was here to figure out just how deep her lies went, and when the time was right, he'd make sure she regretted every single one. Mr. and Mrs. Carter? The therapist, Dr. Langley, was a woman in her early 50s, with warm brown eyes and a calm demeanor that suggested she had seen it all before. She greeted them with a professional smile and gestured toward the cozy, dimly lit office. Jessica wasted no time taking the lead. The moment they sat down, she exhaled dramatically, giving Adam a pained look before turning to Dr. Langley. "We're here because our marriage is at a breaking point," she said, her voice dripping with concern. "And we don't want to throw away 7 years over mistakes." Adam nearly laughed. Mistakes, that's what she was calling it. Dr. Langley nodded, jotting something down in her notepad. "I see." "Jessica, why don't you tell me what you mean by that?" Jessica sighed and placed a hand on Adam's knee, squeezing gently, like she was trying to show unity. "I love Adam, but lately, I've felt disconnected. He's been distant, emotionally unavailable. I started feeling alone in our marriage." Adam kept his face blank, but inside, rage bubbled under the surface. Distant? Emotionally unavailable? She was rewriting history right in front of him. "I tried to talk to him about it," Jessica continued, "but it felt like I was the only one fighting for us. And I made a mistake. I reached for connection in the wrong place." Dr. Langley turned to Adam. "How do you feel about what Jessica just shared?" He took a slow breath, measuring his words. He couldn't let his anger take over, not yet. "I think it's interesting how she says she felt alone when I was right there beside her every night," he said coolly. "She didn't feel alone when she was sneaking around behind my back. She didn't feel alone when she was lying to me. And now, suddenly, we need therapy?" Jessica's smile faltered, but she quickly recovered. "Adam, that's not fair." "Isn't it?" He finally turned to face her, his gaze sharp. "You didn't cheat because I was distant. You cheated because you wanted to. And now, instead of taking responsibility, you're trying to make this about us." Dr. Langley held up a hand before Jessica could respond. "Adam, I hear your anger, and I understand why you feel betrayed. But let's take a step back. Do you believe there were problems in your marriage before the affair?" Adam leaned back, crossing his arms. "Every marriage has problems, but not every marriage ends in cheating." Jessica sighed, shifting in her seat. "I don't want to argue about the past. I want us to move forward. And that's why I asked for therapy so we can heal together." Adam nearly rolled his eyes. Together, the only thing he wanted to do together was watch her suffer the consequences of her actions. Dr. Langley nodded. "Jessica, I appreciate your willingness to work through this. But let's be clear, healing can't happen without accountability. Do you take full responsibility for your choices?" Jessica hesitated. A fraction of a second, but Adam caught it. "Of course," she said, though there was something mechanical about her tone. "I take responsibility for my part in what happened." Adam smirked. Her part. The therapist picked up on it too. "Jessica, is there a part of this that isn't on you?" Jessica fidgeted slightly. "I just mean relationships are complicated. Affairs don't happen in a vacuum. There were things in our marriage that made me feel vulnerable." There it was. The excuse. Dr. Langley gave her a patient smile. Feeling vulnerable doesn't justify betrayal. There were other choices you could have made. Jessica's jaw tensed. She clearly wasn't used to being challenged. I know that, she said tightly. That's why I'm here. I want to fix things. Dr. Langley turned back to Adam. What do you want, Adam? He looked at his wife, the woman he once thought he knew. The woman who had smiled in his face while stabbing him in the back. He should say he wanted to fix their marriage. That's what Jessica expected. But instead, he said something that made her shift uncomfortably. I want to understand the truth, he said. All of it. Jessica's eyes flickered with something, hesitation, maybe even fear. Because deep down, she knew Adam wasn't here to save their marriage. He was here to destroy the fantasy she had built around her own lies. The car ride home from therapy was tense. Jessica sat in the passenger seat, her arms crossed, lips pressed into a tight line. Adam could feel the heat radiating off her, but he didn't care. She thought she had everything under control. She had walked into that therapy session expecting to play the victim, expecting to steer the narrative in her favor. But she hadn't expected him to challenge her. You didn't have to be so hostile, Jessica finally said, breaking the silence. Adam let out a short laugh, shaking his head. Hostile asterisk? Are you serious? You basically went in there with a plan to embarrass me. You embarrassed yourself when you started sleeping with someone else, Jessica. Her mouth opened, then shut. She turned her gaze out the window, watching the city lights blur past. I thought therapy was supposed to help us, not make things worse. Adam tightened his grip on the steering wheel. Help who?
You?
Because you sure as hell weren't interested in helping me when you were sneaking around. Jessica exhaled sharply, rubbing her temples. God, Adam. You act like I enjoyed hurting you. I didn't. She stopped herself, as if she was about to say too much. Adam narrowed his eyes. You just what? Jessica hesitated. Nothing. Liar. His mind raced. He knew there was more to this. The way she had hesitated in therapy, the way she deflected every time he pushed her for real answers. She wasn't just hiding her affair, she was hiding something bigger. And he was going to find out what. When they pulled into the driveway, Jessica wasted no time getting out of the car. She slammed the door behind her and walked straight inside, leaving Adam alone with his thoughts. He sat there for a moment, his fingers drumming against the wheel. His heart still pounded from the session, from the anger simmering beneath the surface. Jessica wasn't sorry. Not really. She didn't regret cheating, she only regretted getting caught. And that meant she was still keeping secrets. Adam grabbed his phone and opened a private search tab. He typed in a name, the name of the man Jessica had been texting. Daniel Foster. He had memorized the name from the messages. He didn't know much about him, but he was about to change that. A few taps later, he found Daniel's social media. His profile was public, an amateur mistake. There were pictures of him in a suit, standing in front of a glass building. A real estate agent. Late 30s. Fit, confident, and the kind of guy who probably thought he could take whatever he wanted. Adam scrolled further, and his blood ran cold. There was a picture of Daniel with Jessica. Not a casual picture. A picture that meant something. They were sitting together at an upscale restaurant, a wine glass in Jessica's hand, her fingers grazing Daniel's arm. The timestamp was from 2 months ago, long before Adam had suspected anything. She hadn't just cheated. She had been dating this man behind his back. His pulse pounded as he kept scrolling. There were more photos, subtle hints, small details that now made perfect sense. A picture of Daniel at a hotel, the same hotel Jessica had taken a girls' night at last month. A shot of Daniel wearing sunglasses, the reflection in the lenses showing a woman's silhouette, Jessica's silhouette. She had planned this. Carefully. Deliberately. And she still had the audacity to act like he was the problem. Adam exhaled slowly, calming himself. He couldn't explode, not yet. No, he needed to be smarter. He needed to let this play out, let Jessica think she was still in control. Because when the time came, he was going to rip her entire world apart. And he was going to enjoy it. Adam walked into the house with a calmness that didn't match the storm raging inside him. He had seen enough. Jessica wasn't just someone who made a mistake. She was someone who built a life behind his back. She wanted therapy?
Fine.
But therapy wouldn't save her. Not from what he was about to do. Jessica was in the kitchen, pretending to be busy, with something on her phone. The moment she heard him enter, she put it down and sighed dramatically. "Are we really going to sleep angry?" she asked, her voice laced with forced exhaustion. Adam smirked. You might sleep just fine, but I'm wide awake. She pursed her lips, probably debating whether to argue. Instead, she changed tactics. "Look, I know today was tense, but therapy isn't about pointing fingers. It's about rebuilding trust." Trust. Adam let out a dry laugh. "You really want to talk about trust, Jessica?" She flinched at his tone, but quickly masked it with annoyance. "This isn't helping, Adam." "Oh, but it is," he said, stepping closer. "Because I did some thinking on the way home, and I realized you're right. We do need therapy." Jessica blinked, clearly not expecting him to agree. "Wait, really?" "Yep," he said, grabbing a bottle of water from the counter and twisting the cap off casually. "But first, there's something I need you to see." He pulled out his phone and turned the screen toward her. Jessica's face drained of color. The image staring back at her was a picture of her and Daniel, sitting together at that romantic little restaurant, looking cozy, looking like a couple. She swallowed hard. "Adam, He swiped. Another photo. Another lie. Swiped again. And again. Jessica's breathing grew uneven. "Where did you?" It doesn't matter where I got them. Adam cut in. "What matters is that you've been lying to my face this entire time." He took a step forward, voice lowering to a dangerous calm. "This wasn't just some meaningless mistake, was it?" Jessica's hands trembled as she reached for his arm. "Please, just let me explain." He yanked away. Explain. "Jessica, you planned this. You built a second life, while smiling in my face." He shook his head, disgusted. "You didn't just cheat. You chose to make a fool out of me, over and over again." Tears welled in her eyes. "Adam, I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted." "That's funny," he said coldly. "Because it sure looks like you knew exactly what you wanted when you were with him." Jessica shook her head frantically, her carefully crafted image crumbling. I ended it, she blurted out. "I swear. That's why I wanted therapy. I was trying to fix things." Adam tilted his head, studying her. "You ended it?" "Yes," she sniffled. "I cut it off weeks ago, because I love you. I was scared to tell you, because I didn't want to lose you." He stared at her for a long moment, then chuckled softly. "You know what's funny, Jess?" She looked up, hopeful. What? "I already talked to Daniel." Jessica's breath hitched. "I sent him a little message earlier," Adam continued. "He had a lot to say about your relationship." He leaned in, lowering his voice. "Including the fact that you never ended it." Jessica opened her mouth, but no words came out. "Yeah," Adam said with a bitter smile. "He told me everything. How you were planning to leave me. How you told him you just needed a little more time to ease me into it." Tears streamed down Jessica's face. "Adam, you sat in therapy today and lied to my face." Lied to his face too, apparently. He laughed, shaking his head. "You thought you could string both of us along, didn't you?" Jessica fell to her knees, sobbing. I'm sorry, she wailed. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." Adam watched her with an eerie calmness. This was it. The moment she realized she had lost. "You wanted therapy?" He crouched down, looking her straight in the eyes. "Fine. Here's my version of therapy." He pulled an envelope from his pocket and placed it in front of her. Jessica's eyes widened as she realized what it was. "Divorce papers." She gasped, hands covering her mouth. "No. Adam, please." "I already signed," he said coolly. "You can beg, you can cry, You can make all the excuses you want, but I'm done. Jessica shook her head, sobbing. Asterisk, you can't just throw us away. Asterisk. Adam stood up, straightening his jacket. I'm not throwing us away, Jess. He gave her one last look, cold, detached. Asterisk, you already did start. Then, without another word, he walked out the door. And this time, he wasn't coming back.